Namaste children, hope you all are fine. And today I am back with the poem A Tiger in the Zoo written by George Leslie Norris. George Leslie Norris was a prize winning Welsh poet and short story writer. He is considered as most important Welsh writers of the post-war period and his literary works have won many prizes. His famous works are Finding Gold, The Loud Winder, Phoenix Living Poets series, Ransoms, etc. Dear children, the poem begins with a description of a tiger that is very beautiful and is walking in his little cage. He has beautiful stripes on his skin and has velvet like soft paws. But the tiger is not happy and is quite angry about being confined in the cage. The poet says that if the tiger was not confined to the zoo cage, he would have been hiding himself behind the long grass near some water body in order to catch its prey, that is, the deer. Also, he would have terrorized the residents of the villages around the forest area. But the reality is totally opposite to this. The tiger was confined in a cage which was made up of strong building material and he was helpless there. He could not show his power to the visitors, therefore, never tried to terrorize them. The tiger is described as being powerless and agonized by the poet. He says that during night also he is alone, hearing the voice of the patrolling vehicles of police and looking at the stars. The cage life has totally changed the tiger's personality. The poet is trying to say that the animal which is famous for its fearlessness and freedom is confined and sad due to the human beings who want to derive pleasure by looking at him in the zoo cage. Dear children, till now you heard the brief summary of the poem. Now, let me explain the poem para by para with the literary devices. So, the first para is look into the text, children. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage on pads of velvet quiet in his quiet rage. So the meaning of stalks is follows. Vivid is bright colored, pads is paws of tiger, rage means anger. Now let me explain the poem, children. Here the poet says that the tiger that is confined in the zoo moves around in the cage under his bright colored skin. He further says that the tiger can take only a few steps because the cage is small and it is easy to move in it. One cannot hear his footsteps because he has very soft feet like velvet, because of which there is no sound of tiger's footsteps. The tiger tries to control his anger by quietly walking in the limited area of his cage. He is angry because he is not free. So now let us discuss the literary devices. The rhyme scheme of the para is ABCB and the tiger is personified because the poet refers him as he. Means the poet is referring the tiger as he. So it's personification. Then the metaphor, tiger's paws are compared with velvet. So it is metaphor. And the whole para is enjambment because the sentence is continuing to the next line. And the consonants. Use of S sound is repeated in the first line. Stalks his stripes. So it is consonants. And even in that line there is assonance, that is repetition of vowel sound I. I is repeated in his vivid stripes. Now let's move to the second para, children. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. So the meaning of lurking is to be hidden as to wait for the prey. So children, here in this para, the poet says that if this tiger was free, he would have hid himself behind the long grass near the water bodies so that he could easily catch a deer in order to have it as its food. Basically, the poet wants to say that the actual life of a tiger is to live in jungle where he could catch his prey and eat it, but the tiger in the cage cannot do so. The literary device of the para is rhyme scheme is ABCB and lines as the lines continues to the next line without any punctuation mark, so we call it as enjambment. Then alliteration, P, sound of P is repeated, so plump pass, which is in the last line, plump deer pass, so it is alliteration, PP is repeated there. Now let us move to the next para. He should be snarling around houses at the jungle's edge, baring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. So the meaning of snarling in the first line, make an angry warning sound. Baring in the third line means uncovered. Fangs means sharp tooth of animals. Dear children, here the poet says that if the tiger would have been free, he would have snarled around the houses located at the outskirts of the forest. He would terrorize people with his sharp tooth and claws. This would create fear among the people living in the villages. The literary devices used here is onomatopoeia. In the first line, snarling, it's onomatopoeia because it's sound words. Now look at the next para. But he is locked in a concrete cell, his strength behind bars, stalking the length of his cage, ignoring visitors. The meaning of concrete is building made of bricks, cement, sand, and water. Here in this para, the poet comes to the reality of the tiger that is inside the cage. He says that the tiger is confined in a strong cell which is made of strong building material. He further says that as a tiger is behind bars, so his ferociousness is also behind the bars. He just stalks in the cage. He never tries to terrorize the visitors because his power is restricted by the cage. Therefore, he never tries to terrorize the visitors as he cannot attack them, children. The literary devices are assonance. That is in the first line, he locked concrete cell. Here, the sound E is repeated. So we call it as assonance. And consonance in the second line, that is his strength bars, the word yes is repeated. And in the second line we have alliteration, that's behind bars, the vowel behind bars, the consonant sound BB is repeated. It means use of sound B is at the start of the two words. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. Patrolling means to guard, to vigil. So here the poet says that in the night the tiger hears the sounds of the patrolling cars. Patrolling cars means the vehicles of the police which are used to guard at night. So in the night the tiger hears the sounds of these cars. He then stares at the shining stars. He means here the tiger with his shining eyes. The poet wants to say that the tiger is sad, and as he is confined in the cage, he cannot do anything. Therefore, he stares at the stars in the night and tries to divert his thoughts towards them. So, the literary device used here in this para are alliteration, that is the use of sound H in the starting of two words, he hears, and the assonance, use of I sound is used, that is with his brilliant. So, this is all about the poem, children. Hope you have understood the poem, and I'll be back in the next section with the new lesson. Thank you.